Welcome to Warhammer Warscroll Review. I am the Twin Coot, and in this video we'll be taking a look at the Daughters of Khaine unit, the Slaughter Queen.
Warscroll Review.
I haven't hit any of the Daughters of Khaine War Scrolls, so let's get started with the Slaughter Queen. The model for the Slaughter Queen used to be a special character named Hellebrand, but with the transition to Age of Sigmar, many characters lost their names and became more generic characters. The Slaughter Queen is a support character, similar to other priest models. Starting with a 6-inch move, this character should be fine keeping up with other 6-inch move elves of the faction. Defensively, she has 5 wounds and a 5-up save. For Daughters of Khaine, this is about as good as it gets for infantry. Offensively, she isn't half bad with 2 melee weapons. The Blade of Cain has 4 attacks, 3s to hit, 4s to wound, Ren 1, damage 1. And the Death Sword, 3 attacks, 3s to hit and wound, with Ren 1 damage D3. For an infantry support character, these weapons are actually pretty solid, but getting 5 wounds with a 5-up save in combat is an iffy tactic on its own. The model does come with 3 special abilities, 2 of which will assist the army, so the Slaughter Queen is a fairly solid force multiplier. First up are her prayers, which are 3 different abilities she can choose from in the hero phase. Roll a die, and on a 3-up the prayer activates. A 1 will result in a mortal wound to the queen. Rune of Cain changes the damage characteristic of the Blade of Cain to D3 instead of 1. Touch of Death allows you to pick a unit within 3 inches and hide a dice in one of your hands. If the opponent picks the wrong hand, the unit is dealt D3 mortal wounds. And finally, Dance of Doom. This one allows the model to pile in and attack twice this combat phase. Dance of Doom is almost always going to be better than the other 2 options as far as damage output. I suppose if there's no way the queen will make it to her second activation, then the first 2 will have a place. Luckily, in a Daughters of Khaine army, the queen will be able to do 2 prayers. The next ability is called Pact of Blood, and allows the Slaughter Queen to unbind a spell like a wizard. It's nice that even if you don't choose wizards, Daughters of Khaine have plenty of ways to find unbinds. The final ability at the Slaughter Queen's disposal is a command ability called Orgy of Slaughter. Orgy. This one can only be used if the model is the army general. Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine unit within 14 inches of the Slaughter Queen. If that unit is within 3 inches of an enemy unit, they can pile in an attack. Choosing a huge unit of Witch Elves or Blood Sisters would make this command ability quite devastating. If she didn't have any better targets, the Queen could even use the ability and Dance of Doom on herself and attack 3 times in one turn. This effectively increases her 7 attacks to 21 attacks. For an infantry support character, that is pretty brutal. Worry not for the poor underserved Daughters of Khaine army, this leader model costs merely 100 points. Obviously sarcasm, as Daughters of Khaine are tearing up every tournament they attend. It's just funny that even their cheapo character can support her army and still find time to beat your ass. I suppose at least she has no defensive ability to speak of. So obviously keep her near other units to make sure she always has her -1 to hit due to look out sir. In general, she will want to be screened until she charges out. Do not let her get in combats she doesn't pick herself. Now, I will get into a pretty nasty combo with her, but normally don't send her in combat. If you want to surprise your opponent by throwing her into a unit of infantry, kamikaze style, go for it. But while she'll kill her share of models, she will go down like a wet paper bag. Obviously, the Slaughter Queen fits best in a Daughters of Khaine army. It should be no surprise that the Daughter's Allegiance abilities offer the model command traits and artifacts, as well as additional prayers and Cainite temples. These grant army-wide buffs. First stop on our list are the command traits. Like most set of rules given to the Daughters, they are all good. Terrifying Beauty will give you an additional -1 to hit on the model. With this one also working in combat, the model gets a bit of a durability boost in case you were using her solely as a support model. True Believer is one that will help the Slaughter Queen's army more than herself. This one allows the player to count the turn one higher for determining the effects of the Blood Rites battle trait. Another good one for the supporting queen. Another good command trait for a support queen is Zealous Orator. This one allows Daughters units within 14 inches to use the General's Bravery characteristic. For most armies, this one would be overshadowed by the other awesome traits on the list. But combined with Mind Razor, a spell that increases in effectiveness if the recipient's bravery is higher than its target, this trait could be indirectly increasing a unit's weapon damage. But for the Slaughter Queen, I'm going to recommend a different option. Normally, I skip right over personal buffs, but combined with a few things, the Mistress of Poison's command trait becomes absolutely bonkers. This one simply adds 1 to the damage characteristics of weapons held by the bearer. So, her Fork Blade of Kane attacks are now damage 2, while the Death Sword is rocking D3 plus 1 damage. By itself, this is still forgettable, so let's move on to artifacts. I'm going to start with one outside of the Daughters of Khaine list, and jump right to Malign Sorcery. First I'll mention the Blade of Symmetry. This artifact from Haish will be increasing damage of a weapon by 1. Whew, so you can make Blade of Khaine damage 3, or the Death Sword D3 plus 2 damage. Don't forget, she can swing 2 or 3 times a turn. I'll add more components as we progress through the video, but we are already talking about an absolutely deadly 100-point infantry support character. The next malign artifact I want to bring up is the Grif Feather Charm. This artifact from Gur grants -1 to hit as well as an additional inch to movement. Moving 7 inches is nice, but combined with Lookout Sir and possibly Terrifying Beauty, this character would be quite safe from just about whatever attacks are directed at her. Bouncing back to the Daughters of Khaine artifacts, we have 2 lists to choose from, Gifts of Morathi and Relics of Kane. The only gift of Morathi worth going into is called Crown of Woe, an admittedly small aura that decreases enemy bravery by 1 within 7 inches. While it increases to 14 inches the first time the bearer slays a model, it will take some care to get this hero in and out of combat without dying. This one pairs well with the Zealous Orator command trait. When going down the route to optimize Mind Razor, this will be necessary for those Death and Demon Bravery 10 models. There are a few neat Relics of Kane, but I'm only going to bring up 2. The Khainite Pendant and the Iron Circlet. Basically, do you want to go balls to the wall, or do you want to play it safe? The Khainite Pendant lets you pray 3 times a hero phase, but deals D3 mortal wounds the first time you get a 3. The Iron Circlet lets you reroll 1s to pray. I'd generally choose the Khainite Pendant if I was going all out with prayers. The character only has 5 wounds, so it doesn't take much to kill her. Those extra wounds really aren't going to exacerbate her getting ripped up to enemy shooting. That was already going to happen. Hopefully, I'm explaining that clearly. What I mean is, a Slaughter Queen sitting there missing 2 wounds from failing a prayer is going to die with about the same effort as a Slaughter Queen with all her wounds. So I'd go for the extra prayer rather than make her prayers safer. This could actually replace the Blade of Symmetry and still grant the same effect, or possibly better. Assuming the Queen was already using Dance of Doom and Rune of Cain, now she can use one of those sweet prayers from the Allegiance abilities. So, let's move on to Daughters of Khaine prayers to see what we can do here. Now, the prayer list is great, but we are somewhat limited with uses on our crazy death-dealing lady. With this specific build for the Slaughter Queen, she could be using Catechism of Murder to increase her buttload of attacks. On a 6 to hit, that attack scores 2 hits instead of 1, further upping her damage output. Now, that's not the only good prayer, but the only one that directly affects what we're trying to do with our queen. If our hero is filling the role of support character, Catechism or any of the other prayers would also be solid additions to units of Witch Elves, or whatever else you have near her. Next up, let's touch on the Daughters of Khaine Allure of Shadows. Even more ways to make this model disgustingly brutal. Huzzah! I've got 2 spells to cover, the Withering and Mind Razor. The Withering to give your models +1 to wound against a target, and Mind Razor to increase rend and potentially damage on a Daughters unit. And don't forget Shroud of Despair gives you another chance to manipulate Bravery. Mind Razor is a spell I keep hinting at when I bring up Bravery. Mind Razor is targeted on a unit within 14 inches and increases their rend by 1. If their Bravery is higher than the target's, the damage goes up by 1 as well. Normally, you're going to be putting this on a huge squad of Witch Elves, but what if you put it on Our Lady? Well, with this and her command ability, prayers, command trait, and artifacts, she could be putting out 21 attacks that are Rend 2 and damage D3 plus 2. Please, someone tell me I'm overlooking something, because that's fucking insane. I mean, yeah, she has to be in combat at the start of her turn to get to swing the 3rd time, but still. Otherwise, she still has 14 attacks to throw out, and if you can wait long enough to gain a few enhancements from Blood Rights, she could be bathing in those sweet, sweet bloody rerolls. No, that's not all the Daughters of Khaine Legion's abilities, but the Khainite temples really don't add too much to the Slaughter Queen, and the ones that do give off an inferior command trait or artifact for our loadout. So if you're going for the Support Queen, these will be pretty helpful for your army, but if you're going for the Poison Queen route, I'd avoid all of these, or at least make sure they don't impede on Mistress of Poisons. I guess I can mention the Crepe Temple, because it gives the Queen another chance to pile in an attack. Roll a die after she attacks in the fight phase, and on a 6, she can go again. Since she is piling in and attacking twice already, it gives you 2 chances to get that 6. Nothing to rely on, but could make your Poison Queen swing 4 or 5 goddamn times in one turn. As far as unit synergies, none of the Daughters of Khaine units specifically benefit from hanging around a Slaughter Queen. Her command ability is great, but as you can see, Daughters of Khaine have plenty of methods of swinging twice, so her buff is not that unique. Even still, outside a Daughters of Khaine army, this model will struggle to find a place. But within it, and when hogging all the items and traits, the Slaughter Queen can really live up to her name. If you are using her purely for support, I'd probably skip it and either cheap out on a Hag Queen or spring to put her on a Cauldron. But going the Poison Queen route, I'd make her the General, Mistress of Poisons to be specific. Choose the Catechism of Murder prayer, then buff her up with Mind Razor and all 3 enhancing prayers. We will have an 100-point model swinging twice, thrice if she was already within 3 inches of an enemy in the hero phase. Each time with 7 Rend -2 damage D3 plus 2 attacks. Each activation has a potential of doing 35 frickin' wounds. I'm sure I'm not the first person to think of this combo, but I still haven't seen it much, so you will surprise some people. When someone knows it's coming, they will either avoid this model like the plague, or kill it with their shooting. In that case, you could even tailor your list slightly. If you think your opponent knows about this strategy and will gun for the Queen, give her the Grif Feather Charm. If you don't think your opponent sees it coming, give her the Khainite Pendant or Blade of Symmetry to increase damage. Personally, I would take the Grif Feather to keep her safe. So, I don't play Daughters of Khaine, so this combo actually makes me a bit salty. But I had to share it with y'all. When facing the Poison Queen, kill her from a range. Hopefully with spells, as her mortal wound defense is lousy, while her range weapon defense could potentially be -2 to hit. Don't let her get Mind Razor off if you can help it, and if she does, don't let her engage something with lower bravery. Most units can eat the additional rend, but that much additional damage will kill most targets. Another thing is if you can charge her. It'll probably be hard as she'll be screened with tons of witches, but if you can charge her, just about anything can kill her in melee before she swings. Yeah, it's annoying that you'll have to put that much effort into killing an 100-point model, but remember, this is their general, and probably an artifact bearer as well, so she is worth a bit more than 100 points. You know what, this character's bananas. Yeah, I threw prayers, artifacts, command abilities, and command traits on her, but she still doesn't really need other units to back her up. While she loves a good Mind Razor, without it, she's a one-woman wrecking ball that will surprise the hell out of the opponent the first time they face her. The Slaughter Queen receives a 4 out of 5. The Queen is an amazing model, and the only reason she's in a 5 out of 5 is because the opportunity cost from having a support general like a Cauldron of Blood with devoted disciples or Marathi. The fact is, Daughters of Khaine units are just so good, and I'm comparing the units between each other as well as between other factions. I think for 100 points, she is a brutal character model, and probably a bit undercosted considering all you can do with her. What do you think of the Slaughter Queen? Have you ever seen her played like this? What war scrolls would you like to see reviewed on the channel? Leave your thoughts, questions, and suggestions in the comments below, and thanks for watching.